it's my great pleasure to introduce, all the way from Italy, the host in this room, Mr. Luca Padavera.
And thank you. Well, all the way from Brazil, right? Or England?
Both.
David Duff, both of them. David Duffett, the original geek speaker. So, welcome to the last talk of the day, last talk of the conference, but it's going to be great. So, Duncan is a senior software and infrastructure engineer, which he says basically means he does whatever he needs doing, apparently. But it keeps things interesting. Wim is team lead of software development at Telviva. This means he gets to understand how everything fits together and spend a lot of time pulling things closer together. And they work for Telviva, which strives through their offerings to improve customer experiences and make staff more productive. And their talk is about improving customer experience with CPaaS. So super looking forward to it because I work at a CPaaS company. Take it away.
Luca. Thanks.
We did it.
I want to see the long title that we have. So it's too long, I'm not going to read it. When the COVID lockdown hit South Africa in March 2020, we'd been building a prototype web phone with some infrastructure to handle the WebRTC conversion to the SIP world. And on this prototype system, at the time, we had about 30 users who were trying it on and off and so on. And when the lockdown started, everybody suddenly had to stay at home, and we saw a golden opportunity for something that doesn't come along often. So we decided to take this prototype live within the first 5 days of the lockdown in South Africa. We scaled to handle 1,000 concurrent users, and we were able to provide our users, and us selling to businesses, our customers' users, to work from home using their business phones and immediately being able to continue working without being disrupted. So yes, this window of opportunity doesn't come along often. Let me just find this clicker. Over here, you can see some of the early styles of the interface as it developed over time. Now, going from 30 users to 1,000 users within 5 days took quite a lot of work. I'm not a mathematician. My calculator tells me that's 3,200% plus growth within 5 days. And we were a team of 4 developers, 2 interns. So competing with the large players, a small team like us, we were up for quite some work during that time. If you go and look at the stats, the guys like Slack and Zoom, who have development teams of 250 to 500 engineers working on a single product, we had some long days and nights. So everybody's got a COVID story, this is ours. And we were short on people, and that's where Duncan comes in.
Yeah, I'm going to come in for that one.
Nice.
It was very exciting to join Telviva. I mean, it was quite a journey. I thought I knew infrastructure because I knew Linux, but now there's Kubernetes. I thought I knew VoIP because of my Asterisk experience, but now there's WebRTC. So it was a very exciting journey, and I will let you carry on until I bump in again later.
Thanks. But to continue with my story, during the months of lockdown in South Africa, there was 2 months of full lockdown where nobody was allowed really out of their houses. And during that time, we started adopting the tools that we were using to continue our business, which was Jitsi. We started pulling these components into our UCaaS platform, from just having a web phone, as you saw in the first slide, a prototype web phone. We started pulling in Jitsi and Matrix and rebuilding the web phone, all of that in Vue.js. And we used various open source components, you probably know many of these, to build this infrastructure. We also had a prototype mobile client. Dan from Nimble Ape helped us with the initial build of that, built in React Native. It has evolved quite a lot over the time. But it was early days for stability, for scalability, and I have to admit we took quite a lot of shortcuts to get to 3,200% growth within that time. We'd had this infrastructure in place, but mostly built by Steve Davies. And I think many of you will know him. I want to pay homage to him. He sadly passed away during the COVID pandemic, not because of COVID, but it was a huge loss for us, and he was a huge visionary, a pioneer in the RTC world. He was a big supporter of open source solutions, and he'd presented us with this idea of how a UCaaS platform should fit together. So we had kind of a blueprint to work from. Steve was also a founder of Telviva over 20 years ago. And it feels like every piece that now the functionality that we bring in is like fulfilling a vision puzzle that Steve had presented to us. So for me, it's a big honor to work on a legacy project like this and bring it to life. So we have this UCNC platform that brings together a lot of components into a single interface. So the user can focus on their communication, but have it all in one interface. We're from South Africa, and the South African rand is not exactly a strong currency. So if you compare, you can have a full Nando's meal for less than £4, or a coffee and a croissant for about £1.50. And that's a barista-made coffee. It's not a machine-made coffee. I see you guys distinguish between that. So anyway, we built a solution to be cost-effective and accessible for businesses in the African context who doesn't have the purchasing power to buy Teams licenses or to buy Zoom licenses. So our whole focus is on using these open source technologies and pulling it together into a usable platform so that they can consume our telephony services and then have very many auxiliary services. And we pulled in components such as Matrix and Jitsi, and you can see some others there on the top. And also we built our own custom components because we had various legacy systems, all of them isolated in their own environment with their own logins and so on and so forth. And we started rebuilding those to bring it all into a single UCNC platform. We also integrated with the large cloud providers to bring your contact details, your calendaring, and all of that into our UCNC. A lot of that is driven by customer demand. We listen to our customers and what they would like to see in the UCNC. So it's driven quite a lot by requirements from our users. And we added a component we call Telviva One Engage. And the idea behind that is that it's for occasional call center style users, but not users whose sole purpose is working in call centers. So that's actually what I want to show to you today. In this Telviva One Engage system, you have task groups, and users can belong to task groups. And tasks such as phone calls or video calls or requests from a website or requests coming in through WhatsApp get allocated to the task groups. And we've got different types of logic to then decide how to hand that to agents. Over here is a little video of how it works from a website. So you have your normal widget, which is now going to the right-hand side over here. On the left, you have the agent interface, which is also the interface for the rest of the functionality, such as telephony, meetings, chat, and so on. So the person on the website would request to have a chat to somebody. An agent claims it. And they can have a chat. We can also pass custom context through, so we can connect through to a CRM and get context about other interactions for this particular customer. If you ask for instance, their account number, you can have all of that displayed to the agent before the interaction starts. Okay, and this text interaction can then be upgraded to a normal voice call from within the person who's using the website's browser. And then the star of the show is going to come up soon. Since we're using Matrix, we decided to bring in video calling on WebRTC. So now, from a public website, a user could start a chat and start a video call, screen sharing, that kind of stuff. And your business agent can deal with the customer in many different ways. So we've got many more plans for this, but basically this is quite a hit with the South African market. We also do the same integration with WhatsApp providers and Slack and planning, many others, obviously. But we had a tech conference, so I think we should talk tech. I'm going to hand over to Duncan.
So, Unified Communications as a Service, UCaaS. I'm not a big fan, I'll admit, of the as a service acronyms, but it's what the business types like, so UCaaS it is. So in the beginning, Telviva was just a telco, really, a VoIP provider. We did PBXs, we provided backbone infrastructure, phone lines, call center facilities. And as Wim said, Steve started looking at the idea of integrated communication a while back, even before the pandemic. And so initially, we just needed a front end. We wanted to give the user a web interface. They can log onto their browser. They don't need to be near their phone. From anywhere, they can then make their phone calls and continue business as usual. Obviously, it's not just a front end we need. There needs to be some cleverness. We built our back end in Node.js, our front end in Vue.js. With our back end, we're doing our user authentication. I've seen a talk during ComCon about Matrix now doing an identity API. We might be looking at that in future, so we're wanting to separate our user identities from EnSwitch, where it currently resides. But that's what we had at the time, and we're sticking it together with duct tape, so we are currently holding our user identities there. So it's not that simple. We can't connect straight to our front end and to our telephony services. We needed some cleverness with the help of you guys, the open source community. And Dave over there, we're using Dractio in our bridges to EnSwitch. We want to be able to convert our WebRTC into the SIP world, where the Camber ELOs and the asterisks live. And supporting this, we have a whole host of services. We've got MongoDB, where we store things like user licenses and user-related information. Because we allow white labeling, we store certain customer information for various customers. We've got our RabbitMQ for our event-driven architecture. I'll say a little bit more about that later, but that's more for our transient data and some reporting data. We have Redis we store our registration information there primarily at the moment. We've got, we need to know where all our clients are. We don't just provide the web front end. We provide a mobile app. We provide desktop apps. You can be logged in multiple places. So we need to know how to contact you. This is stored in Redis. We love the ease of it. And we love that it's open source too, like nearly everything you see. Of course, we need chat. So, I'm off slide here. So we need video calls. So we use Jitsi for that. Matrix seems to be edging into that space. We're not sure what we have to do now. Of course, we're a small dev team. We often stick with what's working for now, and we'll move on to bigger and better things as we can get to it. And ComCon's been a bit of an eye-opener in that respect. You guys have some great ideas and have given some great speeches. So thanks for that and your contributions. We want to do chat. That was the Matrix side of things. We support the Matrix with the standard Postgres backend. We embraced Matrix because of its extensibility and its great support. We did initially try building our own chat service. We called it Touchpoint. it's actually quite a job. So the Matrix team obviously knows this, and they've got lots of guys behind it, and it's working really well for us. And we do see, with things like that, the user identity layer, perhaps we will be able to bring a lot more of our services through Matrix to provide the services that we want. We have our website widget. We have our WebSocket service. We're running all these in separate instances. We're doing this for redundancy and for scalability. We can scale all of these things out. And all through this process, we're learning. We need to connect all this stuff to the big bad internet. So we discovered HA Proxy, more open source. We love the way HA Proxy allows us to do load balancing across our clusters. And we love the way, with a single domain and multiple URLs, you can redirect traffic elsewhere. We find it very efficient. This has got to be hosted somewhere. We love Kubernetes. Most of our services are running in Kubernetes. You can see that our RTC infrastructure is sticking out of the Kubernetes background a little bit. We found some services run better on bare metal or VMs in this case. We were looking at you, HA Proxy, in there, or RTP Engine, but I went to an RTP Engine talk and I see the guys run it in Docker. So that's another thing we perhaps need to look at. So all these learnings that we've had along the way. And we connect to, so we're running that in VMware, and we connect to various other external services. This is the infrastructure we've ended up with. There are lots of other things. Our monitoring is not shown here, and lots of other links, other external services. But I just wanted to give a brief overview of how we've built it, and maybe you guys can come up with some ideas, and we can streamline these things as we move forward. Our Engage infrastructure. This is what we wanted to talk about, our unified communications offering. The idea is to engage with customers. And like Wim mentioned, this is occasional users. We're not talking about high-volume contact centers. We've got loads of options for that. We provide call center inbound and outbound. This is for a smaller team, perhaps your sales team, your receptionist, your tech guys, who want to still remain involved with the client-customer communication, keeping the customer happy. The idea of Engage is engaging with the customer. So we have our front end, we saw on the previous slide. This is more toward just focusing on the Engage, not so much technical architecture, the sort of the logical architecture of the whole thing. The idea is the user will have their tab open all day. They have a browser tab open. It'll have their web phone. It'll have their chat. It'll have their scheduled meetings. And they can use this one interface to seamlessly sort of integrate, I'm completely at a loss for a word here, to interact. There you go. To interact with customers. Like Wim talked about the task lists and task groups, we can assign various levels to your receptionist when they're available, or your sales team when they're at their desk. They can respond to a website chat or respond to a WhatsApp from a customer. So it's not a high volume offering we're talking about here. Our front end needs to speak to all our WebRTC infrastructure. We need our voice and our video. In our matrix, we need our chat. We might be seeing more things going down towards the matrix side of things in the near future. Our backend services, our backend's built in Node.js. Our WebSocket is built in Node.js. And this is where our queuing logic sits for the task lists and the queues. And these all connect to external services. We've layered these things to make it easier to integrate various external services. Most of the rest of the world gets to use a WhatsApp API from Meta, where in South Africa there's some licensing deal. I'm not sure exactly who it comes from. We have different WhatsApp providers. And of course, every single one of them has an entirely different API. So this gives us the flexibility to add various providers in and add shim layers for those WhatsApp services. And we can federate with other matrix services through this. Our chat widget, we wrapped up in a, we didn't use the Matrix SDK. We built it from the ground up. We made it portable and injectable. We want somebody to be able to grab that bit of code, stick it in their WordPress site, and they will have that facility to then offer the chat widget with video call upgrades and call upgrades. For supporting services, for mentioned calendaring, we want the calendar in the interface. The more a user stays there and doesn't have to flip around, the easier it is for them to get on with their day. We've got our push service to push notifications for the mobile app. Tell the mobile phone that there's an inbound call, wake up the app, register the SIP, and then ring that endpoint. And we wrap our desktop apps, basically our front end, we wrap it up in Electron. That has its own set of challenges, as anybody who's used Electron is likely to know. But yeah, it allows us to offer a desktop app there as well. Throughout the process, we are gathering event information. We capture this for reporting. Perhaps a user has an existing CRM where they want information logged. This allows us to do things like give the sales team the ability to look at Google Analytics information about the website chat. We can have events which talk to Google Analytics, and they can get the information there in Google Analytics where they normally work. For slightly higher volume environments, perhaps we will send events to Qmetrics, where the call center managers know how Qmetrics works. They can get their reporting there in the environment they know. And yeah, we send that information to CRMs as well. We are ultimately working on our internal, it's nearly ready actually, our internal engage reporting. So we won't need to use something like Qmetrics to do that reporting. Right there in the interface, a person with the relevant permissions will be able to look at the reporting, look at the events, and see what everybody is up to. Ooh, that's a lot of stuff. I wish I had a glass of water here. So what is the point of all this stuff? It's a little bunch of diagrams and things. The idea is, imagine we're a small, family-run shoe company that makes rugged bush shoes. Oh, wait, hang on. That's not good. Let's try that again. Rugged bush shoes. There you go. Okay, fine. This is a veldskoen, for those who don't know, in South Africa. It's literally translated as a bush shoe. And the veldskoen is commonly known as the vellie, affectionately known. So we have a small company, family-run, 5 to 10 people. They produce vellies, and they've got a new product out, the Vellie 2000. And with their Vellie 2000, they've just released this product, and they send it out, and they get a request in their website chat. The customer is not happy. First thing you do is you go to the vendor's website, and you log in, and you look on the website, and before you can look for the contact information tab, up on the bottom right pops the thing saying, "Hi, I'm your chatbot, help." So you always click on it. That's the little, always on the bottom right there. Click on the chatbot and start interacting via chat. And the customer will say, "My shoe's not working." And yeah. Oh, thanks, David. And obviously, the user is confused. I mean, their shoes always work. They're hand-stitched with high-grade materials. And so on the chat, you'll say, "Well, could you elucidate, please, sir? It sounds a bit confusing." And the customer will say, "Well, they won't stay on my damn feet." And the agent will think then, well, guy's obviously not so bright. "Have you tried tying the laces?" And the customer might say, "What are laces?" And in this case, now the user will know that this guy's a lost case. The user might not be somebody they're not a call center agent. It might have been the receptionist that picked up that call. It might have been the guy that's on his break from stitching the shoes, who's at his computer and he's having a smoke, and he's there. Here he is. He's at his computer. Up pops a message, and he clicks on it because he's been added as a member of this task list or this task queue. You can give that facility to anyone in your company. So this person will then think, well, we've got a silly customer. Mr. Customer, well, please could you upgrade to a video call? So the customer will click the video call link. And through a video call, the user will show up. Well, this is how you tie your shoes and go through the whole process. Perhaps you've got a video bank of frequently asked video questions. You can select dumb customer, show him the how to tie laces video. And through this, you'll get a happy customer. This is but a story about the idea behind this all. On our website chat, we might have asked for your cell phone number or for your email address. And maybe later down the line, 2 years down the line, that customer calls back, and when they call in to engage, something will pop up and say, well, this was that person. And we will have a history of this person's purchases, interactions with us, if we have that metadata. Obviously, that's never as clean as we want it, but that's the general idea behind Engage. We want customers to engage with companies, and that's why we've built this product. So that's all I have to say. I hope you've found it vaguely amusing, what I've had to say. And thank you guys all for your contributions to the open source community and from all that I've learned from you during ComCon. And I will forever be bitter about losing to a seagull.
Thanks, Duncan. You can just try again. To not lose to the seagull.
Here we go.
No, not right now.
Yeah.
I'm getting back to my diagram with some more details. So looking ahead, what do we want to still do? Where is this legacy idea taking us? We have many possibilities. I think every developer out there knows that as soon as you start thinking of what you could do, your list becomes so long it becomes unmanageable, and you have to start prioritizing or scrapping ideas or hearing that somebody else already fixed your problem and just integrate that. So currently our main drive is mobile first. I don't see in the world that in the coming years mobile use is going to go down, and it's something we neglected from the get-go because we went from a prototype to a production system overnight. The mobile side has been dragging behind a bit, and we want to focus on getting the mobile experience as the central theme of our products. As Duncan mentioned, we want to separate from the identity layer and bring in our own identity layer, maybe as an option, maybe relying on other services. We've built most of the code to have OAuth, Google Auth, Microsoft Auth, but so you're not dependent so much on having a PBX in the back end, and some of the services can be consumed without business PBX. Integration with CRM systems and other business systems. There's so many out there. Once again, we're being driven by customer demand on those. There's various ones in progress. More reporting. Integrating bots through Matrix is becoming simpler for automation and for having IVRs in your chats. And then, well, basically integration with any other platform. We built all our microservices in the back end to be interoperable and interchangeable, so we can add on external services, whatever demand is out there. And then who knows, with Apple Vision Pros, maybe the next thing will be to bring that into our product. I don't know how yet, but we need some demo units, please. If somebody can loan us a couple. As Duncan also mentioned, duct tape. It's a big thing, especially when you go to market in 5 days. So what did we learn? We learned that sometimes you have to take the shortcut to prove it works and set an intent to rebuild later. Some of the things still work and are scalable enough for us to live with. Other things, we know there's constraints, or we duct tape it together until it works. But there's no way anything will be perfect the first time. I don't think so. So it's a continuous review process. We're rebuilding the whole RTC infrastructure, also because the landscape moves so quickly and the products are all progressing at a high rate. We knew that we're introducing some technical debt when we went live. but we know what needs to be done, and we've proven what works, what doesn't work, where there's shortcomings, and so on. And the clicker stopped working. Where we stand right now, we are 3 years in. We have this UCaaS running in 3 cloud locations, and deploying another one would be kind of trivial. I'd say 2 days of work to replicate what we have in another region if that's required. We currently have 80,000 people, 80,000 users on our PBX. So one of our main drivers is to get all of those users using our UCaaS. We're also white labeling it. There's a bit of marketing talk, so if anybody's interested. But yes, if we can add at the same rate as we did in the first week of lockdown, I think we're ready for that, and we'll be able to take on users at those kind of rates using the infrastructure we currently have. And that is how you can bake your own UCaaS using only open source components. I think from an African perspective and from cost effectiveness side, the African landscape or business landscape brings some novel ideas to the RTC world and to the open source world. Problems that Europe and America doesn't have to face. So I enjoy working in this community a lot. As I'm sure Duncan, well, our whole company culture is built around that. And we try to contribute where we can. So if you guys have ideas to discuss with us, we are open to that. We're looking to connect the world. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Oh, cool.
Oh, there's questions. Come, Duncan, you're going to have to help.
We had a lot of questions.
Question for Duncan. Using Jitsi, I saw that you have deployed it on Kubernetes. We are currently in the process of migrating from EC to Kubernetes. Were there any barriers to get, say, for example, JVB on Kubernetes? Any issues with that?
Yeah, we aren't actually running Jitsi in Kubernetes. We're running that in Docker. We're finding it fine in Docker, but we have kept it separate from the Kubernetes cluster. It is a bit of a legacy decision. It was made before I joined the company.
And before we had Kubernetes running properly.
Before we had everything running smoothly. So yes, I can't help you with the Kubernetes side of things. Okay. Well, this is a once-off slide. Cool.
So this is a non-technical question. Have you heard from your users about any different needs that they have for conversations that are happening in text versus audio versus escalating to video?
We have frequent interaction with our users. The Engage part is quite new. It was only launched early this year. So far, everybody just likes it. They like the idea.
Yeah, I guess what I'm referring to is have you heard that people escalating to video need things like transcription or recording or summarization or call notes? I mean, any of those things. The answer could be no, none.
Well, I think all of those ideas are being talked about in the sales process already, because it's on our roadmap to bring in the live transcription. Call recording is already happening, so that's inclusive in our PBX. So since the calls go through the PBX, they get recorded. And then CRM interactions, where you can look up previous interactions with this particular customer, identifying who they are, sending back to the CRM the different user interactions that were there. So some of those are done, some are in progress, some are on the roadmap. But yes, I'd like to actually have more ideas of what we could do. Once again, it's about priorities.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Wim and Duncan. Big round of applause for our final speakers of ComCon 2020.
Thank you, ComCon.